You guys doing sketches?
I just did, yeah. So water. I'm gonna put a little of that algae kind of going back more towards the island. Blew this out a little bit, but still give hints of the tree lines that are on those more subtle ridges.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Couple good darks, 1, 2, 3.
And then obviously clouds too, right?
And definitely.
And there it is. All right, and Tad, do you know what you're painting too, or?
Yeah.
Kind of similar?
Yeah, there's some reflections, some slight reflections. I'm just gonna kind of exaggerate a little bit, but just kind of, yeah, kind of a water.
Yeah, actually, you know, I can even see, can you see that? The clouds reflected in the shoreline there?
Right by the algae there.
Yeah, yeah, no,
just kind
beautiful.
Of play that a little bit.
And a nice fresh breeze to,
yes. Feels good.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got the Anderson easel set up and I'm using a 14 by 18 inch panel. So it's a beautiful day here, but there are a few challenges. Wind is number one. I mean, it's a typical spring day here in the Bay Area. And the other challenge is trying to find a good composition. Let me show you what I'm thinking. So I like the color of these hills here. And I also kind of want to include some reflections in the water if possible. So the only thing I'm not crazy about is how this hill just slants off to the left there. So if I were to have, you know, crop it like this, it's just too much energy running off of the panel. So I want to work with this here. Not sure how I'm going to compose it. All right, so here's the compositional idea. I wanted to get some of the yellows of the hills, and then also I'm interested in the reflections in the water along the shoreline. So as you can see, there's a bunch of these kind of reeds here. There's some nice color and reflection. Also, there are areas of like orange where you can kind of see into the water. And then I want to include like this area. Instead of having the hill slant off, I kind of put a little peak in it. And then there'll be some trees on either end to keep the eye from running off in either direction. So that's the idea. Wow, you're making quick progress here. Looks like cloud reflections in the water.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, so you're including some of the shoreline too.
Yeah, a little bit there.
I have to show your paint because this is like, I just love, that's bold, dude. I love that boldness, you know? It's like squeeze it out, you know? Yeah. If you squeeze it out, you'll use it.
That's true. That's true. Yep.
You got some cool stuff going on in there already. You've got that, you know, the waterway goes off into the distance there, right? And kind of disappears.
I can get that. Yep.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Cool.
Ooh, you get some nice colors going.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, that's a beautiful color. Also, it works well with the orange in the foreground.
Oh, right, yeah.
Nice complement. Getting those reddish yellows in the hills. Beautiful. You having fun?
Having a blast.
All right.
Yeah.
It's so much easier on a panel.
Oh, yeah, right?
The colors show up. I mean, that's I got all these canvases at home. I think are gonna.
I know as well. I feel like
donate them to a school.
yeah, it's like the panels. I found like the color or the paint sits right up on the top.
Right
yeah,
I'm a convert.
yeah, for sure.
PLEIN AIR at least.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're getting some nice chiseled strokes in here.
Any suggestions here? It's a little too yellow.
I'm gonna go with that sort of greenish color because you can kind of see that right along the shoreline there.
Yeah, down closer.
And then that can differentiate from the hills, which to me are more of a reddish, like they're yellow with a bit of, they're super warm. There's red in there for sure.
Yeah.
I use this as raw materials.
Got it.
A lot of times I look at stuff and I'm like, how am I going to make something of this? But if I can pull bits and pieces, so in other words, you can use the colors that you see out here for reference. Like, so you've got this nice, you know, green here. And then it's like, oh, okay, I like this color here. I'll put that in this area. And then for the distant hills, I'll use the color I see way off there. You know, so you're just picking and choosing. To create a good painting.
I started to try to bring a little blue into it just to push it back. And I feel like I succeeded in muddying it, not pushing it back. Do you have any suggestions there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's weird because typically like we'll want to push something back and so we'll put blue into it, right? And fade it back. But that's not what I'm seeing here. I was kind of concerned, same thing. I was like, oh, what if I make the distant hills yellow? But that's the color they are, and I did it and it worked. You know, so it's like, again, we don't want to follow rules just because they're, you know, it's like observe. That's why we're out here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, what does it look like? And then we go with that. So
thanks, Michael.
I'm using some ultramarine and dioxazine purple and really loading the brush up, and then just kind of looking for little shifts of color, but trying to put on thick paint. Definitely struggling, but having fun. I'm just trying to get an interesting composition, and I'm having fun kind of with the thick and thin areas here and the trees. I kind of like the pattern in the foreground, how there's some, it looks like, you know, there's some depth to the water. I tried carrying out this color a little bit off into the distance as well to kind of lead the eye around and out. The next thing will be to fix the color of the hills. Those are definitely way off. I might put the sky in next though. I love these like reds in the distance.
Cool.
For sure. Now, what do you think you ruined?
Well, I'm trying to. There was a lot of texture in the water, and
Right.
I've kind of scrubbed it out a couple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of feeling it out.
I like also too how you got saturation in the sky. Nice cerulean. Wow, that's like that grading is really nice. Nice colors in your clouds too.
Oh, thank you.
But I know because I had several times where I had issues in the foreground, and then I just, I took, oh, look at your liquid, man, savage. And I just would load the brush with liquid and then just kind of mop it on there to loosen it up again and kind of reinvigorate it, so to speak. But I don't know, out here things are drying quickly because it's pretty, it's kind of dry.
You're staying on the foreground or in the water?
I was doing it in the foreground, like, because I like to keep transparency. So I kept on, like, when it got too opaque and I felt like I'd overworked a section, I would just dunk it into the liquid and then kind of scrub it on there, and it kind of thins it out and allows me to get the brush strokes back. But
yeah, that's
I mean,
cool.
that may not be something you're after, but I love this. This is really, it's really cool, that panorama section at the top.
Cool. Yeah, it might be.
You're on a panel here too.
Yeah. Might be a job for the chop saw.
The table saw. Yeah, like just zing. Nice little.
Well, I'm gonna do that liquid thing. I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well experiment with the bottom here and stuff. I always, the other thing I like to do is, as if I can, keep this bottom, the entry into the painting super sketchy. Avoid like hard lines and stuff so that it doesn't draw. And keep it sketchy, and then out in the distance, if it's tighter and more defined, the eye's naturally going to go out there, but it's not going to get hung up on the foreground.
That's a great call.
So, I don't know. Worth experimenting with.
There's nothing. Boom, boom.
Getting into that liquid. Look at him.
Better already.
Making savage moves.
For real.
Right.
Yeah.
See, there's a perfect example. See how you can get some of that transparency back when you put that on there? All right, well, let's go see what you got, Brian.
All right.
These are really nice transparent strokes up in the sky. This panel seemed like it was kind of smooth, right? Wasn't it very smooth? Yeah, which allows you to get those streaky colors up there. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I see, those hills are super warm and saturated. Yeah. And this seems kind of cool.
A little cool. With
a little bit cool compared to the sky. I mean, that's something you could do. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're done with this one, but you could experiment with that. And I found that those hills were almost yellow ochre and white. That's it. Like yellow ochre straight out of the tube. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson to kind of, or even burnt sienna, but make it clean. And you may have to like scrape down some since you got a lot of paint there, or palette knife it or whatever, if you want to experiment with it. But
I'll remove a little bit so it goes on easier and the white doesn't take over again.
Yeah, that's the key. Like if you want to go over any areas, since you're painting thick, you'll need to kind of palette knife that off. Just like scrape it down, and then you'll be good to go. Yeah, look at that. With oil paint, we can just wipe out as many times as we want. So it's all very pliable.
Especially on the panel, like that's amazing.
Yeah, look at that. With that panel, it wipes out so easy.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm gonna go.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right.
All right, so I'm gonna stop here, but as usual, we'll go back to the studio and take a look. Here's the area that I kind of scrubbed in with liquid to regain some of the transparency. And what else? Oh, and then the other thing we talked about was, having concerns about making the distant hills, a sort of warm yellow color. Typically you will add blue and cool down things in the distance for atmospheric perspective to push them back. But in this case, the hills were really warm. And, I think it works. I could have, sometimes like pushing the red in the hills will also push them back. So that's something that I could experiment with in the future. Having the hills more like, say, this color right here, as opposed to these, the yellow, this yellow right here. I did exaggerate the blue-greens in the reeds here. I mean, I definitely saw blue-green in there, but I really pushed it using the phthalo blue. What else? Ultimately, I ended up liking this composition. At first, I was really struggling. I had these trees kind of smaller, so I decided to make them, you know, larger. And then what else? Oh yeah, I mentioned that, you know, actually I didn't see these ripples really in this direction, but I like that idea compositionally, and then having some of these warm tones go off into the distance. Yeah, so I had a good time experimenting, but yes, definitely departed from the subject matter. All right, so Tad and Brian continued to experiment with their painting, so I didn't get a final image, but I will link Brian's website and Tad's Instagram down below. Also, if you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. I just did a series on Patreon of videos where patrons sent in paintings and I kind of helped troubleshoot. I hesitate to call it a critique. I just sort of share my thoughts as to what I would do if it were my painting. Anyway, if that sounds interesting, like I said, Patreon link down below. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.